The Rams come away victorious in Seattle. Massive win for them. I mean, we kind of talked about this last week. It felt like the Rams getting a little bit more healthy, and they're a team that is going to be tough down the stretch despite their record sort of being what it is as they've gone through injuries through the first half of the season. Let's take a look at the top 5 graded Los Angeles Ram players as the victors in this game. Rookie safety Cam Kinch's 2 interceptions had an 87.8 overall grade. Guard Kevin Dotson next on the list with an 86.9. Wide receiver Demarcus Robinson at 86.5. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp a 79.5. Defensive tackle Bobby Brown, he's been having a good couple of weeks here lately, 79.5. Matthew Stafford in this game, a 60.0. People might be like, 60.0, what? We'll get to that in a second. On Seattle side of things, wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba with a 92.5 grade in this one. Linebacker Ernest Jones with an 82.8. Offensive tackle Charles Cross with a 75.8, edge rusher Boye Mafe a 73.4, and then cornerback Devon Witherspoon with a 73.3, Geno Smith a 76.2. And again, I think people are going to look at those PFF grades and be like, why is Geno ranked ahead of Matthew Stafford? I'm glad you asked. So I kind of want to open it up right there and just talk about that, because I think that's where people are going to really freak out about this. And both of these quarterbacks, it was a high-flying, through-the-air type of a football game. Now, I know there were moments down the stretch where running the ball was really advantageous for the Rams, especially with Kyren Williams. They've been very efficient and effective with that for a while. But when you look at these two quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford in this game, 3 big-time throws, but also 4 turnover-worthy plays, and that's where the much lower grade comes from, is he had more turnover-worthy plays in this game than he did have big-time throws. And I went back and I watched a bunch of them this morning, and they are there. You know, the Seahawks did not make him pay for as many of those turnover-worthy plays, or I should say just not all of those turnover-worthy plays, but they certainly were there. Stafford, you sort of live with that gunslinger mentality, and I feel like there have been more moments where at the end of the game, he has sort of captured our attention and our memories, I should say, of like, wow, what a game from Stafford. In reality, when you take the PFF mantra and say, okay, every player, every play, Stafford has put the ball in harm's way quite a bit this season. It just has not really bit them in a way where you're really putting the loss on him for that. So 3 big-time throws. I don't want to take those away from him. The 4 turnover-worthy plays, the brilliant final drive that we saw in overtime. Just a 27.5 passing grade under pressure, which again really goes into the overall grade being down for Matthew Stafford. 0 big-time throws, 3 turnover-worthy plays when pressured from Matthew Stafford. Now, when you flip to the other side of things, Geno Smith had more interceptions in this game. Geno Smith had 3 touchdowns but 3 interceptions compared to Matthew Stafford's just 1 interception. But Geno Smith had 6 big-time throws in this game. 6. And he had only 2 turnover-worthy plays. So he had half of the turnover-worthy plays to Matthew Stafford, and he had double the big-time throws. That is why you see the grade higher for Geno Smith. And I tweeted this out yesterday, and Seattle fans, they didn't want to hear it then, and I'm sure they don't want to hear it now, about Geno Smith being a top 3 deep ball passer in the NFL. I mean, every single week, this guy has got incredible 15-yard throws. The fact that that game was even tied at the end of regulation was because Geno Smith is incredible at passing the ball deep down the field when in moments and windows that are just so difficult to hit. Now, Geno Smith, a little bit better under pressure, 48.2 passing grade under pressure, 2 big-time throws, and only 1 turnover-worthy play when pressured. So I get it. Stafford won. He had the drive at the end where he was the masterful quarterback who was able to win it. And that throw to Demarcus Robinson, it's
ridiculous.
It's just so beautiful. And again, we remember that play, and we're not trying to take anything away from that play. That's certainly a big-time throw of Matthew Stafford's. But in the game as a whole, Geno had some unreal throws in this game. And so I just kind of wanted to point that out and break that down for people who are, I know, going to look at these passing grades, see who won the game, see the more common stats, and wonder what the hell PFF is thinking. That is what we are thinking. That's how we come to that conclusion. And that's how we got the grades here with these quarterbacks. But I'd love to hear from you two on this game.
The reviewers actually tacked on a 7th big-time throw for Geno, so it ends up at 7.
Wow.
Which you don't see too
often.
often.
One of them was from a no play, though.
Those get added in. So if you made the big-time throw and it was called back for holding, we'll leave it in there.
So Seth, there we go.
7 big-time throws. One of them gets negated. So be it. Big thing for me in this game, I love that you mentioned the pressured split with Stafford. I think I may have talked about this every single week this season when we do the Rams games. Protection. He had a 90 passing grade when he was clean. So when he wasn't getting hit, he's an older quarterback. I say it every week. This is an offensive line that's dealt with some injuries, but they had their highest – they had a season high in pass blocking grade, the Rams did, for the third straight week. They didn't allow any sacks. The Seahawks, they did get 18 pressures. It was a lot of dropbacks, but 7 of them were unblocked or cleanup pressures. So you see this Rams offensive line starting to find their rhythm even through these injuries, and they're going to get some of these other guys back healthy here pretty soon, Avila and Jackson, and really get the front 5 going. And Warren McClendon even had to come in and play for Rob Havenstein in this game. You leave Stafford clean. You give him a clean pocket, lethal. Top 5, maybe top 5 in the NFL. That's how good. I mean, you mentioned it. The throws are just insane. He knows what throws he can make. Even at his age, the arm talent is crazy. I mean, to make that game-winning throw. But it's just the key to the Rams season. Can the 2 guys outside stay healthy and not throw punches? And can we pass protect? That's it. If they can do those 2 things, Matt Stafford will find a way to get him to the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I mean, the other thing how you mitigate pressure is your 2 best receivers stay healthy, like you said. They can separate earlier in the play, and you can get the ball off quicker. So, yeah, I'm in agreement. I do think Matthew Stafford every week should have a 99.9 PFF grade. That's how good he is. Actually, both of them. These are 2 of my top 5 favorite quarterbacks to watch in the league, so they both should be 99.9 every week.
Stafford's grade, and I've looked at this many times because even for this show, I've gone to praise Matthew Stafford, and then we don't give him a very high grade. And I go like, what? And then I will go back and I will watch some of the key turnover-worthy plays or things that we have, and it's like, all right, yeah. I mean, he is putting the ball in harm's way a lot.
They get away with it sometimes.
It kind of like is what it is. Sometimes you just have to play that gunslinger of a mentality to also have the mindset to attempt to throw to Demarcus Robinson the way that you do. You got to live with some of that, but ultimately that's why, again, I think that people are going to talk about the grades. That's how we get to that conclusion. Stat that told the story for me is a little bit like the most disappointing. Seahawks offensive line, I think it's really struggling. 4 sacks allowed, 15 total pressures here in this game. And I think that it didn't help that Geno was under pressure as much as he was. He was pressured, I believe, half of his dropbacks in this game, almost half of his dropbacks in this game, a lot of them at least. And then you've got the run game as well, which I just don't think was effective for the Seattle Seahawks. So I think that also kind of went into it here. Anything else before we hit Thursday Night Football real quick?
Most impressive and disappointing for me. Best player on the field in this game was Jackson Smith-Njigba.
He was
Somebody
awesome.
told him he was playing in the Rose Bowl this week, apparently, because 7 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. We talked about last week how they didn't have DK Metcalf and their offense completely fell apart. This week, they didn't have Metcalf again, and I was like, okay, is it going to be at least better than what we saw last week? And Smith-Njigba was the reason it was. And actually, he had 2 more catches worth 78 yards that were negated by penalty. He should have had 9 catches for almost 260 in this game. Best game of his career. If he starts the breakout now consistently week in and week out, this offense gets even more dangerous. Just insane the game that he had. Just stepping in now this week, somebody stepped up instead of Metcalf with him being out. It was Jackson Smith-Njigba. And on the other side, most disappointing, just a rough day for Tariq Woolen. I mean,
it was tough.
Gives up the winning touchdown among 2 touchdowns. A pass interference late in the 4th quarter that could have really hurt Seattle. Just a tough day for him, especially when you have Stafford making throws like that.
And when you play a quarterback like Stafford, there's a chance that you're in for a rough day, no matter what. It's just he's going to test you consistently, and playing corner is just a really tough position to play. So it was a tough day for Tariq Woolen. The ball did not bounce his way. It was not his best day, but, man, Jack Smith-Njigba, that is a great call-out. What a performance that he had.